And here we go. It is time for another sprint zone. This one's for 4/15/2025. Didn't have a title screen this time because I was under time pressure, but I digress. And it's a pretty good crew today. Haven't seen this many people in a long time. And I would like to take this time to thank Scott for his telemetry. Yeah, he had some video, but I decided not to use it this time because, well, Scott knows why. And we also have a mystery rider, something different. I won't be talking about that person much, but it's interesting to see what a pack rider does who's not a player. Okay, and here we go. Nice and ordered. I am loving this the way it is. And this is the way a group should ride. 2x2, a little bit further apart than I'd like to see, but it's okay. If you notice how pro riders ride, it's always handlebar to handlebar and, a foot or less in between them. Because honestly, if there's a hole that you could drive up the middle, that draft is being given away. The tighter it is, the better the draft in the rest of the field. It reminds me of the old days when we would practice. We would actually do that width that we saw there, but we would ride in between as a pace line practice, for practice moving up through the field. But I digress a little bit. So there we go. We got Scott there looking strong here. No doubt he was preparing for the weekend's races. Those are already over, and he has podiumed. He got a, first place on the road race, and I believe a third place on the crit. And his crit being his first race ever, his first two races with a podium. That's most impressive. So congrats, Scott Pollia. Anyway, back to our action. It looks like we've got a couple of riders up there. It looks like Fred and Steve. And I can see the flapping of, it looks like Fred's jersey there on the right. A little bit of wattage given up there. Looking behind. I was kind of expecting to see more of a 2x2, but that will happen shortly. Nice, tight, orderly group for the most part. Lines being held. Scott looking super comfortable there. And at some point, I probably need to do a throwback video of Scott now and Scott then, because he is definitely slimmer than he was in race-ready shape, no doubt thanks to TFR and TTH and SOAR and WAR and all the local rides that are making people strong. Up front, Steve and Fred tapping out tempo, and my 30-second power, 2:47. Even Scott's is less than mine, so it just shows how much better the draft is sitting behind. So Scott weighs a little bit more than I do, but he's putting out less wattage. And it's been proven before, sitting in is not always the same as sitting in. You really want to be like fourth row to get the best draft there, as you can see from our mystery rider. And maybe that's a little bit of a hint there. Everybody looking strong. My heart rate 166, which is, I'm happy to see that instead of being in the 170s as it's been in the past couple of weeks. But I suspect it's going to creep up there. Up at the front here, working hard, trying to keep people honest, and heart rate starting to creep up. Power came down a little bit because we're going downhill, but everyone's still content to be in their lane. Ian back there in the HP kit, tucked in nicely. Scott, nice cadence. Got Curtis there in the red, just coasting and pedaling. Not that close on my wheel, so I'm certain his draft is probably not quite as good, but it's good nevertheless being that far back. Everyone seems extremely comfortable. I see Felix taking a drink of his bottle back there. And everyone is still in contention as no selection has been made yet. I slide back here, and this is where many times I get myself ejected, because if it was a team race, I'd force myself in here. And there was a slight gap here in front of Danny. He was being nice, so I slotted in here nicely, and I am happy not to be pushed back. And Danny is like a master of choosing his line and his position. Fourth, fifth row back, that is exactly where you want to be. starting to have a little bit of an echelon, and I am happy to be where I am. Clearly, the wind is off our right shoulder, and if you looked at the radar unit, it flagged us at like 25 miles an hour. Currently, we're doing like 27, and we're very, 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 very happy. It's an honest tempo. I'm tucked in nicely. No one's doing anything crazy. Well-ordered group as the tempo is just being tapped out. And here we go. For some reason, I decided that I need to move up. There was a little bit of a gap opening up. Yeah, it was probably in front of Ian there. And the other riders were like, letting that open up. I'm like, oh no, you just can't have that. And like the stronger riders, yeah, they'll maybe let that gap open up a little bit. But I don't really want that to happen. I'm up maybe a little higher in the echelon than I want to be, but I'm safe from being pushed over the yellow line and being guttered as I was the previous week. Oh yeah, and that was Curtis looking strong up there in the red, looking strong. And this is a well-ordered group without any supers. So we are pretty much on our own to see if we can do the Russian roulette thing or play my favorite game from that game show, The Weakest Link. And in my younger days, if there were in a pace line, it was 4 of us, and we were just ramming and thumping. If I could breathe, I would make the statement, it's time to play The Weakest Link. And then we'd see people fall off, and I thought it was funny. Anyway, I digressed a little bit. And you can see there is some damage being done in the back there. Couldn't see who it is, but it's good. 27 miles an hour, and my heart rate has crept up to 170. I'm feeling pretty good today. I made some adjustments to my cleats on the new bike. Nobody really noticed, but I'm riding an old tarmac now, 11 speed. It's not as aero as the blue, but it's a whole lot more comfortable. And I'm pretty happy at this point with like just a 171 heart rate and still only third back there. And we are strongmen because I should also mention that Felix, the gentleman right there, also podiumed. In the road race, I believe he got a second right behind Scott. So TFR was well represented at the Cobb Lake race. So folks, you guys want to come out and hone your skills before you go to TTH, come on out to TFR and have a little bit of fun. I'm still in third position, and it looks like Scott takes over. Heart rate creeping up to 174, and my 30-second power has been above my FTP for a little bit. Now looking at the power here, Scott's instantaneous 214. I'm around in the 190s. That's about right. Scott is very aerodynamic, and the pistons are just pushing out the wattage. Behind, no one wanting to attack yet. Felix looking strong, and I know how strong Felix is. He's way too comfortable there. And for those of you who are looking to race, you really want to look around and see who looks comfortable. Not the easiest thing to do, but I can look back and I see comfort. I see Curtis in the red looking strong. I see Steve back there looking strong. And obviously Scott even up front. And now it is my turn, taking over. And Scott looks like he's falling back there a little bit. And not much of a selection there, but they're letting him come back in. Felix takes over, and I am grateful. And this is where I do not want to be shoved back. And here's a good show of the peloton. Looks like Doug there. Looks like Danny there. Looks like Joel back there. And kite surfing everybody. Not quite guttered, but everyone is having a good time. And no real final selection is made. And I am holding my position here. I'm actually feeling pretty good at this point. Past couple of weeks, when I'm on the rivet, my heart rate's like in the 170s, like 175, 177. But clearly I can see here, 170, maybe my new norm. I am able to push myself into the wind and hold a reasonable position here. Little 400 plus watt push there as everybody is still in contention. I think at some point there is a selection here, but right now, good rotation, everybody working. And as I pointed out before, the supers are not here and the kids are left to fend for themselves. And this is good practice. You know, how hard can you go? How hard do you want to pull? And you can see the folks back there, and there goes an attack. It looks like Jason going up the yellow line. And at this point, I was hoping that we would just sit in and bring him back slowly because there's enough horsepower to bring him back. But Scott's a little anxious. Steve's a little anxious. And maybe two of them will be a problem. And now we're strung out. And I can see 470 watts for myself having to bring that and keep it in contention. 30-second power, 280, 290, 300. I am working hard. Heart rate 173, so now I am in the zone. Looking rearward, we see Anna for the first time on my wheel, and we see Danny with that trademark super arrow, and then he kind of sprints up a little bit to stay in contention as we move by Scott, who has blown himself up, perhaps actually resting, not wanting to go too hard. And whatever he did was working because his success in the upcoming weekend was evident. And once again, congratulations. I'm still in contention and I'm pretty happy now. No one is going super hard, but at 176, 177 heart rate, it's going to be no moss for me, as I'm not going to be able to hold this any longer. But I'm happy to be in contention as long as I was. You know, there's a lot of folks that were back there behind me that had not seen the front. And there goes Danny up the left-hand side. Anna looking super strong there. You know, the training camp in Arizona has been good for her. There looks like Doug passing him. And I'm, you know, even though I'm falling off, my wattage is good. You know, my heart rate is good. And I'm almost going to make the crest of the hill with being in contention, but not quite. In fact, I think this is probably maybe my best performance in quite a while. You know, maybe I'm starting to get in better shape, or maybe the bike and cleat position have made a difference. Although the tarmac's not quite as aero as the blue, but it's a shit ton more comfortable. Pardon my anglais. Anyway, that was fun, and a good time was had by all. We'll see if we can see who took this one. I think it might have been Curtis. I'll make note here. Maybe some of us could be over, you know, to the right a little bit, you know, not make this truck go all the way around. But he seemed like a little impatient here. You know, it's like, dude, like, where's the fire? In any case, I digress. We make the turnaround. It looks like Felix took that one. Well done, with Curtis on his wheel and maybe Steve behind him. Yeah, that was beautiful. That's probably the most fun, or at least the most in contention I've been in a long time. So, yeah, that was a good feeling. It's almost enough to make me want to do a road race. But the operative word being almost. Until next time, party on.